Hi, I'm Frank Surber for Starlix, and today we're going to be looking at the style and technique of George Lynch. With the popular LA band Dokken, George Lynch has developed a heavy rock style in the tradition of Edward Van Halen and Randy Rhoads that combines blues rock soloing and melodic phrases with flashy passage work, two-handed technique, and whammy bar phrasing. This makes George Lynch one of today's most exciting new guitar players. And before we get started, let's get tuned up. And here's the low E string. And our A string or fifth string. And our D string. Our G string. And our B string. And finally our high E string. First of all, I'll explain the guitar I'm using. This is a Kramer Beretta with a Floyd Rose locking nut tremolo, Seymour Duncan pickup, and two stock Fender single coil pickups. And in my rack, I've got, on the top, I've got Yamaha Rev 7 digital reverb. Beneath that, I've got an ADA digital delay. And under that, I've got a Hush 2C noise reduction unit. And the amp I'm playing through is a Marshall JCM 800 100-watt amp, custom modified by Lee Jackson at Metaltronics, and running it through a 412 Marshall cabinet. Now, here's lick number one. First of all, this is a lick out of E natural minor or E Aeolian, and I'll give you the pattern that it's out of right now, and then we'll talk a little bit about some interesting things that are happening within this scale form. Okay, what's going on in here is, first of all, it starts off with a half-step bend between the second and third degree of the scale. E being our root, our second degree of the scale, and our third degree of the scale. And we're bending up from the second, and we're also using an articulated bend, which means that we bend the note up and then pick it. So it's like this. So you actually hear the two notes as separate things. You hear the original note and then the bent note. Also inside this lick, you'll notice that there's a small three-note arpeggio. Now you don't want to play this as you would a chord. It just won't sound right. What you want to do is play each note one at a time, sweeping down the strings as though you were picking a chord, but lifting your fingers up one at a time as you play it. So I'll play this for you right now. A little bit faster, so that you can hear it as a broken up chord or an arpeggio. And also, just to give you a little variation on that, something else you can do is take like an E minor arpeggio and do the same sort of sweeping thing, where you take a three-note arpeggio, in this case E minor, and you just sweep down the strings. Or also you could go up to like the octave E right here. In one continuous motion, you're sweeping down over here. And here's lick number one, slow. Now here's lick number two. This is a lick out of G Lydian and moving back to E minor at the end of the lick. First of all, I'll give you the pattern of G Lydian that it plays out of, and then I'll explain to you some of the other things about it. This lick also incorporates the use of an articulated bend, where you bend up a whole step and return the pitch a half step down, and then bend back up, articulating that bend. Now at the end of this lick, there's a 4-note descending sequence that you can expand on and play it in 2 octaves, and that will give you a little different sound with the same pattern. You can play it even a little faster than that, to get an idea of what it sounds like. And here's lick number 2, slow. And here's lick number 3. One of the interesting things about this lick is the whammy bar phrasing in the first measure, where he's pulling off to the note with his first finger, and then pushing down on the tremolo bar then. There's a lot of different things you can do with this. You can play it in reverse, where you hammer on the note and then use the whammy bar. Or you can actually play more notes, like more of a scale type thing with it. The lick ends in an F-sharp blues scale, which I'll give you the pattern for that right now. Also, on the last note of the lick, it has use of the whammy bar on the single note. What this does is instead of having your normal hand vibrato, where the note is mainly pulled up, this makes a lot wider sound because the pitch is going down and up. Now here's lick number 3, slowly. And now here's lick number 4. This lick's a perfect example of George's legato technique, where instead of picking all the notes, he's using hammer-ons and pull-offs. So we'll pick the first note, hammer on the other 2. And also there's some sliding with his first finger that he's doing. And he also is doing it with the 4th finger. So the best thing to do on the one with your 4th finger, it's a little bit harder, is to move your entire hand up when you play that. That way it's easier instead of just moving your finger up. It's easier just to slide your whole hand up. This lick also uses triplet timing, which in this case is 3/16 notes in the space of an 1/8 note. This would be considered 1/8 note. Those 3 notes, the next 1/8 note would be, add it all together. Now I'll play this lick for you slowly. Here's lick number 5. This lick's a D major scale and ending in D mixolydian, and it starts out with a half step bend, and then it goes into a descending 3rd sequence pattern, which I'll play for you right now. And right there it switches strings, but you can see it's a pattern in 3s. And that's the descending down. What this does is it slides through 4 different patterns of the major scale. The first of all being D major here, then to this pattern, and to the next one, and then finally ending in D mixolydian, which is like this. And now I'll play the lick for you slowly.